Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I appreciate talking to you guys. I hope that we can, have a conversation, of course, and also share some information. I will be sharing a lot of information. I will try to fit it in our time allotment. And yet I also anticipate that if anybody around the table is going to contribute and has something to offer, that they please jump in, because I think that there's obviously more information than we can share in 1 hour for this topic. And some people are bringing to the table their own level of expertise. And I have a version and they might have similar and or, varied versions. And that's okay with me. I like to learn something too when I'm presenting. So again, hopefully everybody can contribute. And being that that may be true, I am going to ask the first question, which is, how many of you are actually doing early intervention currently in person? If anyone's here doing early intervention, you can use the reaction button, of course, okay? And you can use the chat, there you go. So anybody's doing early intervention currently. And is anybody doing, being brave, so to speak, and doing early intervention online? See Jolene and Suzanne, yes, are doing some early intervention. Anybody doing it online currently? I'm online and in person, got you. So online for Jolene, okay. I'm only doing it online. All right, so you guys are really, part of the expertise. You've definitely got some things to bring to the table. So I'm sure that you have something that you are using and that you can share with us also. And I would be happy to hear it as we go along, because I think, again, it is, we've got certain clients that we're going to have to work with certain types of work that we're doing with them that might be beneficial to hear from, more than just myself, even though I have some ideas, of course, have some things that I've used, some experiences, and yeah, and hopefully we can share what we know. So I'm gonna get here and start my presentation. Can everybody see this? Thumbs up, not head. Yes. Good. Okay, good. All right. See a thumbs up. All right. So this, of course, is the presentation for the Sisters of New York. And we are talking tonight about telepractice engagement for very young children. The intention is to talk about children that are 0 to 3 or 0 to 5 at the most, because, they are very young and they are the ones that tend to be easily distracted at times. My name is Dawn Cotter-Jenkins, and as was said before, I am, although I changed it a little bit on the slides today, CIO and CEO, I just like the letters, of World Class Speech Services. I'm located in New York, and my business was founded in 2002, and so I've been in private practice for a long time, although I've also taught at several universities. And so I'm, definitely one of those people that does a few different things if I can. Just for, formality's sake, I just want to make sure there is no compensation or agreement for compensation for this presentation. And I am part of the New York State Licensing Board in the Office of Professions. So if anybody has questions or needs to follow up with something or needs information, I can share that kind of information, meaning tonight or in the future, whichever, if you have things that you want to ask me. So I will share my contact information. As was said before, I am working with mostly adults now because I have revamped my business personally. And I am currently working only with adults. Yes, pretty much accent modification, public speaking, professional voice use, and telepractice. So I'm working with other speech pathologists for telepractice. And I did create a planner for telepractice based on my experience developing the program at Adelphi University. I am teaching a course right now at Speech at Emerson. So Emerson College has an online program, and I'm teaching a course with them. And as was said before, I've worked at many universities, and I was a clinical supervisor for a couple of the universities, Lehman College and Adelphi University. And at Adelphi, I also created the Telepractice Practicum and Research Suite, which is which includes a course for learning about telepractice for the students. And this is something that I've been doing for the last 4 years. I want to say 4 years, because I think we started in 2017. So again, for what it's for all that we can do, and for how 2020 kind of came down on us and said we are forced into online programming, online intervention, online assessments, online interactions. Thankfully, I was a couple of steps ahead of the game. I was already doing it. Is anybody else here a pre-COVID-19 telepractitioner? By show of hands or reactions in the your chat. Okay, so Tanya was teaching online before, it looks like. So everybody else is like, after COVID-19, you started doing online stuff. Okay, I don't see any more reactions, so I'm going to assume that that is true. All right, so again, this is one of those times where I thanked the Lord for allowing me to know a little bit ahead of the game, so I wasn't as chaotic in the follow-up. So what we're going to do today for the topics of discussion and sharing is these particular items. I'm going to actually hide my floating meeting controls. Yes, here we go. So setting expectations, preparing for the session, characteristics of client readiness, components of an engaging session, follow-up for e-helpers, and self-reflection and planning are the topics that we're going to discuss. So I guess I need to set some realistic expectations for us tonight. I am going to let you guys know that because we only have 1 hour, there might be certain things that we aren't able to cover. Feel free to contact me after the presentation and email me, and connect with me on LinkedIn if you have further questions, and if there's more details that you wanted, more links that you wanted, more resources that I talked about that you weren't able to quite capture. But as my students have taught me, a lot of the ability to capture things frankly has to do with you pressing print screen, right? So feel free to keep any of the information. This is something that I've created for the sisters, and hopefully you'll be able to get some information from it, follow up with it. So that's setting our realistic expectations for tonight, but setting realistic expectations for our intervention, or our early intervention, excuse me, and preschool intervention, if that's where you are. So again, our 0 to 3 population, or our 3 to 5 population of clients. One of the things that is a huge change for me in learning how to follow up, frankly, with online services is to make sure that you understand that the parent or the caregiver is going to be an intricate and integral part of the session. And it is important. And I'm going to say that, in person, I was able to talk to, I did early intervention for close to 20 years, frankly. And so, of course, when you walk into somebody's house, you say hello, you greet them, you talk to the family, you find out some of their traditions, you look around, obviously, you know what's going on in their family. If you need to, you take off your shoes, you do the things that are appropriate for the cultural background and the situation, frankly, that you are in. And I've been in many different settings. So again, in this case, you're not able to maybe do as much of that kind of in-person follow-up about where you are. So again, making sure that you're talking to the caregiver or the parent in an orientation. How many of you guys who do online services are already doing some parent orientation or trainings as part of your programs? Yeah, so see some nods, and again, use your reactions to do thumbs up or, you know, hands up if you are doing it already. And if you're not, think about how you can do it. Can you take, of course, as you should, a few minutes out of the session, especially in the beginning of the session, to make sure that your parents know what to do, that they are well ready to understand what the technology is about, and making sure that they know how to manipulate and navigate through the system. And the reason why I'm saying this is not because I think that parents need to be an expert in technology. They don't need to get a master's in healthcare informatics. They just need to know that there's more to their screen than just a camera, and that there is a possibility that you might ask them to do something that is interactive. Hopefully you are doing that, that is interactive, actually potentially on the screen. Now, I will tell you that if I were, when I am, doing orientations and doing a technology initial training, I go through a technology checklist, and I will talk about that in a few minutes. In fact, I will show you the first page of it and tell you where I got it so that you can get it yourself in case you want it. And basically the idea is that you are telling the parent how to use their computer in a more interactive way so that they can help their child to be more interactive. Some parents are going to be on laptops, some are going to be on desktops, some are going to be on tablets, and some frankly are going to be on phones. I'm sure if you've been doing telepractice long enough, there are times where your client is not in their home in a nice settled position and, you know, right by the table or something that you think is, you know, kind of normal settings of, you know, the practice, so to speak. But sometimes they're in the car and they're rushing from place to place, or that they are late from coming from something. And so oftentimes I know for us, especially over the last year, there's been definitely times where people have gotten on, you know, children have gotten on the cell phone and they've been interacting that way. And sometimes, of course, it's not the ideal condition. And sometimes, you know, you just work with it. So again, keeping that in mind, I will go through the couple of checklists. The two that I named here are the technology checklist and the competencies checklist. I call, by the way, in case you guys are not familiar, there is a term that was used by the University of Maine called an e-helper. And that's the reason why I put that in brackets. So you're going to see these checklists that are going to have e-helper competencies. So again, an e-helper being an electronic helper, somebody that's online is the name that they give them. And basically it could be a parent, a caregiver, a babysitter, you know, an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, because I'm sure as I have seen lots of grandparents that are taking care of the kids. So the other part of this, of course, in setting realistic expectations, is making sure that we know some of the preferences, interests, and settings of where the child is. And like I said, you can't usually walk into the house and know for sure what they're surrounded by. So if they are at home, are they in the living room, the dining room, the bedroom, that seem like the very most common places? However, there's also been times I know that, you know, sometimes kids are outside, the children are outside, and, you know, they have to come in for the session. Or maybe you say, you know, stay on the patio, stay on the back porch, whatever. So again, is that the setting that they are in for a home? Ideally, of course, you know, we want someplace that is private and quiet and with fewer distractions, and frankly, with less space for them to run away from the camera, just in case we need to grab their attention. So as you are thinking about how you are interacting, you're kind of keeping those things in mind and what your plans are for that session. And frankly, the time of day, the time of year, you know, the season, if it's warm and sunny, you know, how often do you want to, you know, just keep them stuck in the house? They could be outside. It's possible. It's hard, but it's possible. Again, daycare, if you're seeing a child that's at a daycare, by the way, is anybody seeing anybody that is not home, but at a care place, like a daycare or a, you know, some sort of preschool. So is anybody doing that right now? No, not for these younger kids. Okay, okay. So far, I don't see any hands. Okay, so everybody's at home. But in theory, we know that it is allowed now to do services at a daycare. So that is actually one of the allowable places of intervention, and that was a legislation that was signed into practice 2 years ago. So you can actually, it might expand to some more of those. And frankly, if you're the kind of person that's doing private practice, you might actually want to start expanding into asking daycares if they want to get your services, right? So again, just as a business thing, it might be something that you might be looking into to expand your own ways to make money, frankly, and to build your practice. So again, keeping that in mind. But either way, and the last thing is the timing. Is it morning, day, or evening? If you're home, they've had a long day, and you're suddenly seeing them for early intervention late at night, same as if you were in person, how would that really play out? And, you know, can you manipulate that setting and be okay with that evening version of what you're doing? So again, setting expectations is really important. And I know I spent some time on this to talk about it. I spent over, you know, over 5 minutes. The reason is because I think that if you set expectations well and understand the client better in the beginning, some things go smoother. And it's hard if you're picking up a new child that you've never worked with before, and you don't know the parents and you don't know their expectations. Taking a little time to talk to them, get these things understood is definitely something that's worth the time, and you would do it if you were in person. So don't skip over it just because you're online. So I was talking about the University of Maine, and they have a popular telepractice check. They have several popular telepractice checklists to provide a framework for preparing to conduct the first session of telepractice and ongoing sessions. They created their program specifically for the university training. And again, this is their link. So they have free resources and lots of them. They did an article in the S.I.S.T.A.s, and I want to say it was probably in 2012 or 2014, somewhere around there. And that is where it kind of started from, so to speak, for them to share this information. So it's readily available, it's free, it's all the paperwork, so to speak, that you need to start doing telepractice, you know, properly, so to speak, with evidence-based practice. And two of the forms that the University of Maine created were the eHelper Competencies checklist and the technology checklist. And as you see in the eHelpers, and I'm going to open this up just a little bit if I can. Oops, sorry. See if I can make this bigger. Okay, here we go. I have a touch screen that makes, you know, of course. The eHelpers competency has a rating scale at the top, and you can rate who's helping you. Are they helping you at a level that they consistently perform effectively with a high degree of independence, and they take initiative and make changes when appropriate with their child or with the person, you know, that they're working with? In other words, if it's a babysitter, do they, as it goes down, of course, do they instead perform effectively with general guidance from you, or do they perform effectively only after specific directions or demonstration, or do they fail to perform effectively regardless of how much you're helping them? So again, making sure that those things are happening. And then the technology checklist is also about how they use technology. So again, how can they join the session? Are they using the proper equipment? What equipment are they using? And, you know, who is the eHelper? Are they, you know, like, what is their availability? In other words, did they walk out of the room or did they stay there? And we want them to stay there because we oftentimes are doing more along the lines of parent coaching than we are talking to the child. If, you know, I shouldn't say more, but potentially we're doing more of it than we would be doing oftentimes if we are in the room in traditional settings, let's just say, because oftentimes we just have the child. Like if I go to a daycare, the teacher gives me the child and I walk into a library or into a, another room with that child, there's nobody really there to talk to and to, to add to the session. So in this case, this is slightly different. All right. So let's see if I got this right. Excuse me 1 second. Seems to not want to get smaller. Okay, here we go. All right. So keeping those things in mind, feel free to look for those checklists, because those are two of the ways to make sure that you are gauging, frankly, how much they can help you, and whether or not you need to give them more training, more opportunities to get oriented to what's happening. But again, hopefully this is something that you've thought about and have been perhaps doing. So, so anyway, I see that a couple of people are like, yes, I've had somebody in the car on the phone. So, all right, in the chat. All right, so how do we know our clients are appropriate? And I know that a lot of people have talked about this a lot over the last 2 years, because telepractice sometimes was not the first choice, not the preferred choice, didn't work very effectively. And sometimes it just took some time to kind of get used to it. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, okay, now I understand, as we went along, not that we were kind of forced into it, but that it got better over time. So again, what are the characteristics that we're looking for of our clients? We are looking for how we can help them best, right? And so again, we are in the helping professions, so we want to adapt and adjust if we need to. But prior to your intervention, you want to check for the physical and sensory needs of your client. Are there any auditory or hearing ability or accessibility issues? One of the first clients that I watched was somebody, so in a training program, was a child with a cochlear implant. A lot of children in the deaf ed community, so to speak, and a lot of practitioners and educators in that community are working with telepractice. They are working their systems through this. And again, amazingly, this is great because it gives us an opportunity to know how to adjust and improve our own skills if we're not thinking about these hearing difficulties and how we can make that better, and how we can tell people, by the way, this is how you can make it louder. This is how you can add a speaker, frankly, to your computer. Things like that are very useful. And again, I am not an audiologist. I know that there's opportunities for more types of technology that can enhance the hearing and the auditory abilities of their clients. But again, something to think about. Visual ability and accessibility, as I just did, like I have a type of a laptop that I am able to expand very easily. Mine is actually a touch screen laptop, so I can actually make things bigger by touching the screen. It is one of those kind of convertible computers. It's a Lenovo Yoga, and it is convertible to be a tablet also. So my screen is a touch screen. A lot of people with Macs, for example, don't have that opportunity to use their touch screen, and they have to use other ways to make things bigger on the screen. But are you using it? And are you understanding that children might need more engagement, more closeness, etc. In this particular instance? Manual dexterity and keyboard operation. Now, quite obviously, there are some children that are not going to be able to use a keyboard, right? And yet, let me be clear, I've worked with early intervention children that absolutely know their way around keyboards. And I'm sure some of you have also. They already play with it. They already watch YouTube on it. They know what they're looking for. They are very much the masters of their online universe sometimes. And so again, keeping that in mind, some children, very, very young children, are not going to be doing this. And some children, even at early intervention levels, are going to be ready, and they're going to be able to press a button, and you are going to want to use that. So again, keeping that in mind, Also, you know, there may or may not be a keyboard. So keeping what you need to know about the different types of systems that they will be working on, because some are more functional, more interactive, able to be interactive, that is, and some of them can be glitchy. So again, as we develop more technology, I think the technology will keep moving up and we'll continue to have more and more expansions of what we are doing. And until then, you know, you're going to have to work through it and figure it out. And with the child, hopefully, you'll be able to get a way to do that. So, and the last one is physical endurance and positioning. Most times sessions don't really run more than an hour. Is that true? Is anybody having sessions for longer times? No. Anybody in the chat? Like, how long are your sessions online? 30 minutes? 45 minutes? What we got here? We got 30-minute sessions, 30, 45. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we early intervention pretty much maxes out in an hour. Nobody's kind of going over that, right? Yeah. Okay. And again, you know, there might be other clinicians that are doing more, right? So ABA specialists, for example, or you know, maybe even some of the C.I.S.T.A.s potentially might be using, might have longer sessions. I'm not sure. That's, you know, a version of, it depends. So again, most of us are within an hour. Physical endurance and positioning with a child. If the child has cerebral palsy, if the child has any other, you know, I've had a child who actually, you know, was born with one arm, right? So didn't have another arm. So again, you know, thinking about those things, thinking about what they're doing, thinking about how you're telling them to come to the computer or do something on the computer. Maybe it's appropriate, and frankly, maybe it's not. Some children will never have to touch your, you know, the laptop with you there, and that's okay too. So not one size fits all. All right. And we want to think about in the pre-intervention, their cognitive, behavioral, and motivational needs. Again, just paying attention attention maintenance to the video monitor. Are they going to look at you? I say personally, for early intervention, they can have mixed attention to the camera. They don't have to be staring at the camera the whole time for you to feel like they're engaging, because maybe they're playing with a toy. Maybe they're talking to their parents. Maybe, you know, they are finding something that you told them to go get, right? So if you're doing a scavenger hunt, go get and then they go and get it. Why not? Then they're following directions. Minimize extraneous movements in front of the camera for clear image resolution. I will say that this past couple of years, everybody has upgraded their systems, whether on the computers that they had or they bought new laptops and computers. So truthfully, there's not a lot of the glitchiness based on the camera's speed that used to happen in the past. So again, that may not be as big of a problem, but I will tell you, having worked with a client in Ghana with the organization Smiles for Speech, sometimes their Wi-Fi connection can be off. And that part is really tricky, because then the kid gets disinterested also. Minimize additional movements in their home or the daycare from other people. Again, for the same reasons. Children are easily distracted. They're going to be looking at what else is going on. They're going to be interested, frankly, in their sisters and their brothers, you know, running around the house. So they're going to be interested in their mothers and their uncles and their, you know, somebody else that's walking around. So truthfully, we want to keep it as them as focused as possible. And even if there's a pet in the house, they want to play with the pet sometimes. And again, not that the child is in agreement, they don't sign papers, but they should need to say that they want to do the session, right? Like they should look forward to it. We want them to be engaged, and we want them to be happy to see us online. We want to be able to say, like, this is going to be a good session, and they're going to like it. So again, one idea one idea, I'm going to go with one idea for session planning is something that I learned while I was at Adelphi University. And it was their Todd Talk and Kid Talk. You'll see it at the bottom. Kid Talk and Todd Talk program at Adelphi University. And they have a program that has, in person, 6 children that are working in a group doing early intervention sessions. So these children are 0 to 3, okay? And this is usually in person. We transitioned that program to be online when we were in COVID-19 time. So in 2020, we transition the program. And I'll tell you the components of the program so that you know them. And we basically break it down. It's frankly a 90-minute session, so it's significantly longer. This is not, some people were talking in the sisters group about how to work with children in groups. And so these are some of the idea of the groups that we were talking about. So I wanted to add a little something in there. But additionally, we can adapt this for individuals. If we have a structured thing that we want to do with our kids. Now, I know if you're good at EI, you're flexible. You work with the child at what they want to do. You don't always select everything that gets to be done. So the truth is, there is that version of things for several of the children that we work with. On the other hand, for those children that are able, maybe a little bit more mature, maybe they, just aren't picky, that you can have a structured program and you can be able to do that too. So again, this is a version of a structured program. Initially, or in the beginning and the end, there are hello and goodbye songs, right? So this is nothing none of these things are revolutionary, but the point is that putting this as far as, our pragmatic skills to say hello and say goodbye in a song is really nice. I will tell you one of the first lessons you learn if you're doing online services. I don't know, hopefully how many, and I want to show of hands again, make sure everybody's listening. How many of you, when you first started doing online sessions and you had songs that you were singing in unison or with music, were thrown off completely by that whole kind of misalignment of singing? Anybody? And being that we were in groups, it was definitely yes. Okay, Rocio, I see you. So we are, and yes, you too, Terry. So oftentimes we're like, oh, we're just gonna sing this song, and the child starts singing, and we start singing, and it sounds way off, and it just goes in different directions, and it kind of fizzles out. Here's the secret. The secret is that you don't sing. Or you start singing and you stop singing, because the truth is that computers, this is the technology part of it, honestly, computers work at different speeds. You are transmitting this signal to the child. Your speech sound and your music sound is coming from wherever you are to wherever they are. It takes some time. It does not happen immediately. And because of that, we tend to be out of sync a little bit with the children and their singing. And I know when we were working in groups, that was a huge, huge issue. So please be forewarned. I love singing. I think it's fun, meaning I like karaoke, but I like singing with the children. I think it's fun, but just be forewarned that they might sound a little bit off. So just watch that process. Okay, Rocio, I don't know. Do you have a question, or is it just because you were putting your hand up to respond?
No, I forgot my hand there. I'm sorry.
Good. Okay, just making sure. All right, so we do that. And think about it as like you are doing something that is similar to kind of working with children if you were in a preschool, how classrooms run, right? So you do the hello song, you do an orientation of the day. I'm not saying what day of the week it is. You can do what day of the week it is. If you were the type of EI clinician that does days of the week, no problem. But I think things such as the weather outside, is it raining? Is it snowy? Is it sunny? Those things are the orientation of the day. More simple than the more complex version. However, if they're in the daycare center, they might be learning that. So if they're learning about the days of the week and you want to do a days of the week orientation activity, you can. You can talk about the environment, like, where are, if they are in school, if they are in a particular place, you start to orient them to that. And you can talk about the environment that they're in. So school, home, the living room, the bedroom, etc. Key tips, of course, songs and child's photos. So when you are doing the presentation, my suggestion to you is to make sure that the child can see themselves in the presentation. A lot of times what we do is we play the song, even if it's a video or in the background, we can play that, but then we have a picture of the child, put the child into the moment, so to speak. Playtime and an imaginative activity, this is where the parents are really getting into it, okay? Making sure that this says mirror their play. That means you are doing something that they are doing. If they have a car, you have a car. So you're playing with them. If that's what if today we're playing with cars, have a car with you, okay? So what they're doing, you're doing, so that you, as you know, again, because you're a good speech pathologist, you are talking about what you're doing so that they can talk about what they're doing in similar ways, not expansive, simple, of course, because we're talking about very young children. But if they see that you have what they're playing with, then they are more engaged. They're more likely to say, I want to do that too. If you ask them to bring toys, you know, that's really helpful. And characters. So I have my my Mandalorian baby. So I use props. Then you want to do an action song, which is like following directions. And it can be the simple kind of classic songs if you choose to. It really depends on the culture. Some children really don't know the songs. They are coming from a different culture. They are coming from a different background, and their parents have not taught them. But if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, right? It's a relatively easy song to learn, and they can do it, and they can see you do it. So a little bit easier. If they're a little bit more mature and you want them to stand up, which is also a really important part of things, you can do the head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and they know it too. So again, they can stand up and they can be doing it. And don't get me wrong, I've seen children who jump up on the chair and are starting to do it. And I'm like, wait, get on the floor first, because they're so excited and they're ready to sing. And yet, you know, you want them to be safe. So keep that in mind. But definitely, you know, those action songs. And again, you know, if they have favorite songs, such as Baby Shark, which has actions in it, even though they are not specific actions, they do the actions, but they're engaged and they're singing, great. It's fine. Next one, number 4, have a creative or artistic task. This is something that can have finger paints, of course, if the family has those things, crayons, or building blocks if you don't want to get messy and creative artistically, but building blocks and, you know, putting things together. You have to plan for this ahead of time, and you have to tell the parents to get the materials. So making sure that the parents have the materials and that you are ready to do this. Now, let me be clear. You also have a whiteboard, right? So it is possible that instead of doing it that way, you can do it online with the child to pick different colors. Some children absolutely will engage in that. And there are definitely some apps that have this opportunity to be able to create things online. Love it, do it, please. But I'm talking about like if you're doing things in person. So a little bit of both, and I like both, frankly. Story time, the child should be sitting, you know, they may be sitting, excuse me, on the parent's lap. They may be sitting on a chair. If they're not doing either one of those, they should be sitting perhaps on a cushion, on the floor, and kind of staying focused if possible. I do 2 different ways of doing story time. I do hold books up and read them. And I do also, and mostly because it feels appropriate, right? I should say 3 different ways. So I can hold the book up and show them. I can do a video and still hold the book up and show them, because again, there's 2 different cameras, right? You're still going to be in the camera when you're holding the book up, even if you're showing a video. So you can do both of those. Or at times we've also adapted, excuse me, books and had slides of the books and taught, and not taught, but, you know, to discuss the book that way. So again, as you're reading, thinking about how you want to present, those are some of the ways you're doing it. By the way, if anybody sees any spelling errors, feel free to drop it in the chat. And then snack time. And this, of course, just depends on how much time you have. And like I said, extended timing. So you may not have time to have a snack, but if it's part of what you're trying to do, like you have dysphagia therapy, then you want to have something prepared, ready to go so that you can do that interaction. And by the way, anybody here does early intervention dysphagia with any of their children? No? Okay. Don't see any hands so far. All right. So, but we know it's a possibility. There are children that need to learn feeding skills and eating skills, and we really need to consider what we're doing and how we're doing it. And by the way, there are ways that you can do this. This is going to take a little bit longer than this time that we have today, but again, there are opportunities out there. All right. How many of you do not bring toys to the client's house for early intervention anymore? In other words, you no longer bring your own materials if you are going in person. Okay, Terry, right, Osio, and yes. All right, so Ayadeli, I think, no, somebody else. Let's see, another A name I saw. Is it? Yeah, I can't see it anymore, but there was another hand up. So again, so we've learned that we don't really actually need to bring our own things. We can actually use the ones that are in there. So consider that their naturalistic setting and the environmental resources. I have worked with children, and not in telepractice, so don't get me wrong, but I've worked with children in person that don't have any toys, right? There's no toys around them. I've actually, in one case, it was twins, and they were in a temporary housing situation. So the truth is, we've got to kind of be considerate about that. Sometimes it's not going to be readily available. So know your setting and know what you're trying to do. Hence the reason why we want to have resources and things online. And, we want to have those apps and those visual aids that we can use there too. And kind of think of it as like the TV shows that we see children watching, Blue's Clues in the good old days, and what is it? The paws, whatever those the super paws. What are these things called? The kids, the dogs. I know you guys know. You have kids.
Paw Patrol.
What'd you say?
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol. There we go. That's the one.
Marshall?
Yes. All right. So again, as much as possible, we're telling the parents what we want them to engage with. The parent is the main interventionist in the room. And I say parent, but caregiver, babysitter, etc. As much as possible, they are the ones that potentially are going to be giving instructions. They're potentially going to keep the child coming and going. If the child needs to move and get up out of the seat, let them go, but bring them back, right? That kind of thing. We don't want to make a child, we wouldn't, if we were in person, have a child sit for 30 minutes. We just wouldn't do it for 45 minutes. We would never do that, I hope. So why would we try to do that just because we have a computer on them? Just, put the computer back, talk to the parents, have them come back and forth, and that's okay too. So do a lot of parent coaching and use them as your hands, so to speak. So I will show you my Mr. Potato Head visual aid, which some of you might have seen in a moment. I'll stop this share and then I'll show you Mr. Potato Head. Their own toys and daily activities. In other words, if they're doing something, right, they're helping mom get the something, use those daily activities as part of your session. And again, if it's cooking, if it's, eating, if it's tidying up their beds, who knows? I've done a lot of different activities when I'm in the house. So why not do it with the children there? Because you're like, okay, we're going to go into your bedroom now. Let's go here and let's talk about what we're doing. Again, building into them the idea that they can talk to you as they're going along and not that they're stopping, right? Again, using videos as much as you want to. I personally think that it can be helpful and it can be a helpful tool. Children are watching these videos. There might be a lot of, research that's done that children shouldn't watch television before 2 years old. That's all well and good, but what are they really doing, right? The research may not actually play out to reality. If they're already watching TV, you can ask the parents. Some parents don't let their kids watch TV. It's fine, no big deal. But if they do, then you can start to say, like, you can integrate a couple of videos or a couple of minutes of videos. You don't have to do, a whole session of videos with a book and a song and a, action thing. You don't have to do everything, but you can do some things. And then other playful apps that you might like. So I'm sure that you guys have your own favorites. And so, that's a possibility too. Just to show you really quickly, I see some things in the chat. So I'm going to pull that up. Is this? How do you ask the parents what toys they have at home? If you're doing teletherapy, do you ask them for a list or something? I actually might. I do have a list, and I have a checklist that I would normally use. Absolutely. I will also, because I'm the professional sometimes making the suggestions on what are the appropriate activities to be eliciting more language. So we want to have those age appropriate toys. Some parents really would like to hear from you about what kinds of things you might suggest. Definitely puppets, definitely bubbles. There's certain things that are classics. So for early intervention, and maybe even a wind-up toy or two. You want to make sure that this is a wind-up toy. Ooh, I think you can see me. And it has like a track that you can put it on. So again, if you have a document a camera or a second camera that you can use for a wind-up toy. If you have the wind-up toy, that's fine. You have it. They ask, go, and they play with it. So the truth is sometimes parents want to know what you're using, and we want them to now more so than ever. Okay. I don't think EI allows it anymore. Are you saying, Ayadeli, as far as bringing toys?
Bringing toys.
Bring it back. Go ahead.
I think, I know I stopped doing EI, but okay. I know that during the COVID, they were saying, don't bring your own toys.
Oh, sure, yes.
But I think initially, what I told people that I knew doing EI, that the initial idea of EI is you were supposed to use what the people had, because how realistic is every time you come with your fancy toys, how realistic is it that exactly. When you leave, that the parent is going to be able to duplicate what you're doing if you don't use what they have?
Absolutely. And one of the downfalls of this, and this is just one of my personal pet peeves, I love playing, like doing the whole EIEIO and animals and farms and whatever else. I love it. It's fun. It's cute for slightly older children, perhaps not for EI, but I do love to do it with EI, right? Like it's a cute song and it's so easy to sing. But honestly, we live in New York City. I mean, I don't know where everyone else is, but my children are living in New York City. How many animals are we seeing on a regular basis that we are actually talking about in real life? Way less. We should be talking about, more realistic things that are readily available. So that's one of the reasons why I asked whether or not people are still bringing toys, because I do think that it takes away from the possibility of talking about the things around them. And that's part of the enrichment process for what we can do and how we can be better. All right, so I was going to show you my Mr. Potato Head. I know what's going on here. So I'm going to show it to you in this way, so that you can kind of get a view of my my suggestion to you, at least, is to use Mr. Potato Head with the advanced feature of PowerPoint as your background. And you see how I am showing right now as part of the foreground to the background. I don't generally use virtual backgrounds. So I personally, for me, this is my personal preference, I don't like the way that that I disappear when I use virtual backgrounds. I don't want body parts missing. So I don't love kind of using virtual backgrounds. But in this case, I think that the idea that we're using Mr. Potato Head and we're adding, this is a simple version, different parts of his body, different things that we could use. If they have a Mr. Potato Head and they put it together, that's one thing. But if you have the screen and the app and the slides and you're adding different parts and you're saying eyes, hands, shoes, hat, simple words, right? Or the vocabulary part of it, but then adding sentences, hat on head, 2 hands, things like that. And again, this is one of the freebies that I got last year in something, probably teachers pay teachers or something. So again, I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of different opportunities to use things, and you don't even have to go all this way, right? So now he's wearing glasses, he has a mustache, he's got a lot more details. And so I've used this with early intervention kids and they love it, right? Because they want to be able to, you know, put the parts together and talk about them. So again, I wish the ears came before the mustache, because how many people have mustaches? And how many children can say mustache? So that throws us off a little bit. But again, I'm now in the screen and Mr. Potato Head's in the screen. If you use a background scenery, you can do the same thing. So how many people have used this kind of advanced version specifically in Zoom so that you're putting yourself into the picture? Hands, show of hands, anybody? Okay, I only just learned about it recently myself, so I just wanted to share. It's good. Yes, Valerie, it's there, it's available for us. Yes, I know, I didn't know either. So again, I'm always learning, I'm always listening, and that's why I say we can always share new information. So again, this is when you're screen sharing, it's in the advanced, you're usually in basic, and you get to the advanced, you know, you go past the whiteboard and everything else, and then you go to the advanced version and it says share in, you know, put yourself in the screen. What is it called? It says PowerPoint as virtual background. And then you need to pull the PowerPoint out from in your computer. You don't set it up ahead of time. So you pull it out from there. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that with you guys there. And then going back to, you are very welcome. I know it's like, oh, new things. This could be fun. This could be cute. I could put myself into a forest if I wanted to and do different actions with maybe, you know, like different things. So again, cute, very cute. So I'm trying to learn all the next level things as much as possible. All right, so we have materials, and then, all right, and I'm sure you guys have things to share too. This picture I wanted to show you. It's cute, it's adorable. It's for older children, right? Try not to be too complicated with your pictures for early intervention. This is colorful and interesting. It's what's wrong with this picture and, you know, etc. But those are for the, you know, 5-year-olds. It's for the older children. Watch yourself, be careful, especially if these children potentially have cognitive issues. They're thinking, they're being distracted. They have ADHD or if they have other things that might be distracting. So certainly not for the younger children, just wanted to show you a version. And then to reinforce and follow up with the parents, you know, you want to be able to do that after the session. You can record the session. You know this. I don't know how many people record their sessions. I have some parents that want to record, or some clients that want to record, I should say, at this point, but some that want to record and some that don't. So please understand, but you can offer it if you really want them to reinforce things. Please offer it. I know that we don't really want a record of ourselves floating around the internet. I know that's true. So get all of those signed privacy, confidentiality forms. They are not, you didn't give them the video so that they can share it on their, you know, like their Instagram. That's not the point. So keep that in mind. Let them know ahead of time. This is private, this is confidential, this is for your learning, this is not for entertainment of the world. You should ask for the preferred toys and tasks at least 24 hours ahead of time if you know that the child that you're working with loves cars and loves dinosaurs. You know, I'm sure you've had kids. Dinosaurs is their thing. Make sure that those dinosaurs are close by instead of in their bedroom if they're in the dining room. You don't want them wasting 5 minutes trying to look for a dinosaur, the specific dinosaur that they only love for that time. So make sure it's, you know, it's readily available. Ask for theme things. If you are having a theme of food discussion, because, you know, we talk about food, we should be talking about food. If you're wanting to talk about, you know, clothing, have those things ready for the child to be able to use in the session beforehand. Have the parent find that. You should send them links after the session or handouts. I personally like to educate the parents so that they know why we're doing things. I know, especially as a new clinician, when the parent is looking at you and you're kind of doing this, you know, you're playing with Mr. Potato Head and you're playing with bubbles and they're like, what is the point? I've definitely had parents that are like, please teach my child the ABCs. And, you know, and you're like, let's teach them how to say me first, like just something else, something that's more relevant and, you know, kind of there. So again, you know, keep them educated and send them articles to reinforce what you're doing. And you can ask them to do some homework by logging or videotaping themselves. Again, there are some end-to-end videos that, you know, that are private, I should say. Even right now, something like WhatsApp is an end-to-end encryption. But of course, you know, if you're doing MS Teams or Zoom or other things, you can also use that on different files. I use Dropbox with a lot of people. Again, or I should say at the end, self-evaluation is very important. Are you looking at all the components of what you're trying to do? This is a student of mine who agreed to be my telepractice model. So she was at Adelphi. Are you making sure that you're evaluating how you're presenting in the setting, the preparation, the session structure, interactions, parent coaching and feedback, and the technical aspects? And again, this is a self-evaluation form. As you see, it's a checklist adapted from RIDC DBC, self-evaluation of telepractice sessions. It's readily available online, and that's the reason why I like to kind of like keep you guys aware of where I'm getting this. You can certainly screenshot it, of course, right now, but I also suggest that, you know, you have your own checklist for what you're doing with new clients, especially because you need to get used to how they're working. And of course, you can contact me at any of these places. I am on all the social medias. I see I've gone over by 4 minutes, but I am available on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I did create a telepractice planner that I would be happy to talk to you guys about, you know, anytime. Because I do think that it's important that we are strategic and that we think sustainably about how we are approaching telepractice, that it's not just a fix for when everything else doesn't work and when we're in a pandemic, but that it's something that we're actually being consistent about, that we are making sure that we have the proper equipment and thinking about how we're working with you know, telepractice. And to me, I think it's really important that you plan and strategize in an appropriate way. So I have the planner for that reason. So feel free to connect with me on any of these platforms. These are, of course, my business platforms, but you can find me as myself if you so desire instead. So, and I'm on Sisters. Hey, you're there, I'm there. So feel free to connect with me there too. All right, so thank you again for inviting me. I am finished for this section. I just have I'm like trying to get out of here now. Stop sharing. All right. Any questions, ideas, feedback, and yeah, things like that that you want to share and contribute? I see in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hi, Dawn. You answered most of the questions, but I just want to comment on 2 comments inside.
Sure.
It says, the Green Screen Speech Therapy is a great Facebook group. I want to mention that. And I guess this is more for you, Terry. Will the recording be available? Some people join late.
Yes, it's available. And you know,
Yeah.
Dawn, if you want to keep on talking, that's fine. I'm happy with it. I definitely want to know about the telepractice handbook. I like to see more of that. I saw it there. If you want to share that now, that's fine.
Oh yes, you're okay with that? Yes. Okay. I do want to. I have it, and I was like, just in case anybody asks or wants to know a little bit more, I will definitely do that. Okay. So let me go and share that. Let me pull it up again, and I appreciate you asking for me to add. So this is my planner, and this is something that I created, frankly, this year I created this. It is available on Amazon, so it's easy to find, but of course you can contact me and find out more, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. The strong components, so to speak, are an acronym, for strategic stakeholders, or, you know, in consulting to establish a telepractice program, training of end-to-end users. So the person that's doing the intervention as the practitioner and the clinician, as well as the person receiving the services. How do you train each side, right? Like, what are you telling this person to do that's new and that's never done it? And what are you telling the parents and the child or the adult on the other side? What are they doing? And how are they, which is one of my biggest things, how are they doing more than just staring into a screen and showing slides, right? Like, what else are they doing that makes it intervention and interactive and communicative and engaging? And again, you know, that's one of the things that oftentimes is missing. Reviewing your progress and the resources for what you're using, because as we know, technology moves fast. There are upgrades, just the same way as I just showed you this advanced version of putting yourself into the screen. That's, you know, one of those things that you want to do, you want to know about. So you want to, you know how things are moving along, of course, for your clients and for, you know, your program. So if you're expanding into telepractice and you're maybe you haven't done telepractice now and you want to start it, or you have done it, but you actually want to do more types of telepractice, how can you do that? So how you're kind of building from the basics to more advanced levels. Ongoing support and follow-up, to be honest, again, similar to the strategic stakeholders, who else are you calling when you need to, right? Do you have somebody that is on call for your tech needs? Do you have an opportunity? Do you have kind of like more opportunities to kind of troubleshoot with somebody? If you're using a particular platform, is that easily supported, frankly, with somebody that you can chat with while you're going through it, or while your client is having trouble? What are you doing there? Needs assessment, of course, has to do with just starting your business or starting your telepractice program, making sure that you have what you need, frankly. Are you, because a lot of people, I think, hence the green screen version of things, when they started telepractice, they were like, I must have a virtual background, I need a green screen. Now everybody, we know on Zoom, you don't need a green screen, you can just have a virtual background without green screens. So people spent money buying all these things. Were they really useful? We already know, you know, that sometimes, you know, technology moves faster than we can keep up with. And then goal setting for your business and your practice. Again, a lot of this has to do with making sure that your technology and your systems and your strategy is in line, frankly, of course, with our licensure. I'm obviously going to say that, and with our evidence-based practice as best as possible, and with cultural appropriateness, so to speak, right? So competency, sensitivity, humility, all of the things that we want. We would like people to treat us how we want people to treat us. So making sure that those things are set up, but making sure that your business, if you bring other people into your business, meaning there are other contractors and you're expanding and you're doing more, how are you doing that? Are you setting those, you know, things up properly? Are you making sure in your planner that you're doing all you need to do? So again, as it says, the strong framework plan was developed from evidence-based practice in telehealth and telecommunications. For me, it's a compilation of years of research and experience in the areas of communication sciences disorders and healthcare informatics. It provides key components of technology selection, adoption, and training for development and success. And I combined both the speech pathology side of things and the healthcare informatics side of things, and put those two together so that you can really develop, if you want to, you know, the platforms, the EHRs, if you wanted to do the medical side of things, talking about it, how to build it, what you're looking for, those kinds of things are where my planner is kind of sharing information. And again, it's a planner. So the idea is that you're plugging in as you're going along and moving through the process. And hopefully it's helpful to guide you through that. Any questions? Yes. Sorry.
Where can we purchase the planner?
Excuse me?
Where can we purchase your planner?
You can purchase it on Amazon.
Okay.
As I said, you can purchase it on Amazon. So it is available on Amazon. And so you can certainly go there. And again, I see something in there. I will put it in the link on Facebook, of course, you know, under this program for today, meaning our program that we're watching, and you can certainly check that out as soon as I get off of this, you know, this presentation. I will definitely drop the link there. Thank you for asking.